G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Writing Corner number 36, World Building Part 3, The People. Now in this series of world building, I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions, and later, of course, I'm going to give you the whole summary and a actual copy of my world building. Probably not a word-for-word script, that would be difficult. Plus, you know, with all the rambling and the distractions and the recaps. Most world building is, of course, simplistic. You don't need every detail. You don't need to scientifically name everything. You don't need to document the citizens of every nation if you're only dealing with one. You can use real-world references to be aliens. You don't have to be beholden to little green men or blue purple blobs or elves, dwarves, giants, dragons, and goblins, orcs, and various other things that go creep in the night. But what you are beholden to is at least giving some detail to your world. Now, a lot of people actually don't and get away with it. But those cheap pulp fictions, what are their contributions to the world of literature? So it's up to you. You're obviously here because you do want a world build. And then when it comes to people, the first thing, of course, is obvious: race and species. Now, race, human, elf, dwarf, giant, ogre, etc. Species: forest elf, field elf, mountain elf, aquatic elf, green goblin, blue goblin, grey goblin, purple goblin. There's actually dwarf. You have trolls, but however, you also have mountain trolls who are actually giant trolls, and of course you have cave trolls, which are also large, and you have ogres. Now, ogres actually come in very gigantic forms. With giants, well, you have 6 foot, 12 foot, 50 foot. You have all sorts of beast men, minotaurs, piglets, panda men. You have dozens and dozens and dozens. Some are human or near human. Others are anthropomorphized animals. You can be very creative without having to invent something new. You just can be different. Now, of course, you may want to create an origin story to go with each race, a language, and what are their how do they coexist, and what is their level of civilization. Now, the physical world, what do they physically look like? Do they have distinguishing features? What sets them apart? What is the society standard of beauty? And is this regional? Class? Mannerisms and etiquette? Class distinctions? Manners? Habits? How does your world interact non-verbally? Do they flip the bird? Do they punch air? Do they punch face? What gestures are universally insulting? What may work? Thumbs up in some countries means okay, in others it means stick your thumb in your ass. So be very careful. Some parts of the world get you killed for actually brushing your kissing some, you know, the kiss off can actually, mean a death threat. Rituals, customs, religions, coming of age ceremony. Are they religious, non-religious? What age marks the transition from adult to child. Now, of course, you have legal issues when it comes to this, so I suggest you don't make anything less than 18. If you're long-lived dealing with short-lived species, you might get away with it, but it'd have to be a well-established short-lived species that recognizes the fact that achieves adulthood and look and act like adults. So remember, look and act like adults. And of course, you don't suddenly say, hey, they're adult at 4, and yeah, don't actually go into anything more than that, because you start to sound a little bit creepy. So if you're going to do something other than... Now, the reason why I bring up coming of age celebrations and marks age of adult childhood is because actually in different cultures, it did vary between 14, 16, 18, and 21. And so there were differences in historical dramas and there are allowances, but I only bring it up because of that but. There are exemptions and existences of short-lived races in science fiction. So you better make sure you actually distinguish that they're adults and make them look and feel like adults. Traditions such as birth, death, and marriage. Now, festivals usually are associated with religions, not necessarily. They could be political, of course, or ethnic. Now, of course, with people comes languages. Now, with languages, how did they originate? Do they have a root? Are they spoken and universal languages that are written? Naming conventions for each region. If you want to be this sophisticated, go ahead. I suggest makes it easier on readers too to try and keep as much real world as possible, because unless you're Tolkien, you'll suddenly find yourself bogged down for 20 years on language. Now, with language comes insults, idioms, slang, and untranslatable words that only one group would understand. It's actually called cant, C-A-N-T, and tramps, thieves, murderers, assassins, etc. They all had a little bit of secret societies, all reinvent words so that when they're speaking to each other, look, catch out that Mark over there, or that John. Some make their way into common language. Mark, if you don't know, language of the con artist, the mark, the target. Can also be the mark of could be the target of assassination as well. John, of course, being the preferred nomenclature for the anonymous degenerate seeking prostitution. Accents. Now, you could go into accents and social classes and levels of education. People often put on an accent, especially the so-called Boston educated. We're so clever. Now, greetings. Now, some races might actually have a different greeting, formal and informal, proper terms of address, social framework. Now, social framework is basically classes, taboos, rules of society, caste system or class system, religious. Caste systems are typically religious, whereas class systems are political. Now, the difference between a caste and a caste is, with a caste, you're born into a caste, whereas class, you may be born into it, but you could rise or lower. Although technically these days caste system and class systems overlap and are very indistinguishable from each other. But once upon a time, caste system was rock solid. You're born a noble, you stayed a noble. Whereas in a class system, you could fall in and out of nobility depending on your level of education, your level of competence, greed, stupidity, or just merely having everybody else decide they've had enough of your shit and kick you out. How can you become a priest, a wizard? Are they is the priesthood a caste system, and the priest and wizards part of a class system? Of course, if you're the wizard, it's been the wizard to be a magic user, man. I'm the king, because I'm the best wizard, or the richest wizard, or both, the richest and. Now, family structure. What is considered normal on your world? Is your world matriarchal or patriarchal? What makes you a good father, mother, child, productive citizen, etc.? Births, deaths, and marriages. Breakdown, of course. You want to what are the marriage rituals? What are the rituals for births? What are rituals for deaths? Religious institutions. Do people marry for love? If not, why? In fact, marrying for love is actually a modern concept. Actually, in many societies, marriage was merely, hey, you got a house, you got a farm, your neighbor would bring his daughter over one day and just leave. Eventually, ceremony, as class systems rose, they created ceremonies around that, and of course, religious started to add ceremonies. Society used to basically assume the women of the household as hands off. Basically, if you wanted somebody's daughter, you had to pretty much stand outside in the shivering rain and cold and wait for her to come out. And the only way she was leaving the house is when the parents said, "We're not putting up with your shit anymore, go." So, human race likes to pretend there's sophisticated things like love, but look around the world today. We can pretend all we want in a book, but trust me, a little bit of world building is great. A lot of world building will do you better, but too much world building, she's written an entire novel. So these are just questions you're going to ask yourself around your world to make it distinct. Now, of course, you don't have to, but I'm suggesting at least you have some idea what these things mean in your world, even if they are just merely going to Wikipedia and writing out a few little notes, so that you have canon, you have a book. Eventually you'll have this nice little neat notepad with all your things written out, and one of these days I might actually get all my notes together and sort it all out too. But world building, that's what we do. You build a world to build the story, and off that. So you have the idea, world building, story. Stories have a beginning, a journey, and a conclusion. Some will consider it the beginning an exciting incident, but your beginning is actually in the world building. And from there, your characters have the basis of how they interact with other characters. Why does Nation A want to go to war with Nation B? Because they have a shared border. There's a gold mine, and it's right in the fucking middle, and it wasn't there before. Somebody found gold. Some of it goes under there, and sharing ain't caring. Two big dicks stand at the border staring at each other and go, "Well, how are we going to sort this out, cousin?" And he says, "Well, we moved the border back to where it was before Daddy died. And I'm the king. I'm the rightful king. No, I'm the rightful king. Put him up." No, they're so uncivilized. Guards, take care of this buffoon. Suddenly Rami rises up, and then on their side of Rami rises up. So you can have things escalate very quickly or very slowly, or, I mean, Pointy Hat Wizard goes, point, don't have to have wands. Or you could say wands are for wands are for students, or, you know, for showing off. You can put the wand away, blast them with both hands. you can be different. You can have multiple systems. You can have lots of systems. You don't have to listen to all these boring bozos on YouTube who say the same thing over and over again. Too many characters. It's too complicated. The world's complicated and has lots of characters. World building, it's one of those things. You're either going to know your audience and know the level, or you're going to test the waters. You can't make an assumption. You can't follow trends that one person has set and expect them to translate to your story. Why? Because that audience ain't going to learn about you unless you can somehow stick your face and your story in front of them and go, it's just like, and then hope they like it. Fans of. That's sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It's just so unpredictable. Knowing your audience is so unpredictable. So start with world building, go from there. And remember, you'll have a long way to go. But if you're going to write a series, I believe it's a must. Well, thank you for listening. Before you go, please check out the links in the description. My books, they're on Amazon, Google, and other Barnes & Noble, and other places, many other places. So links are in my link tree. You can buy a coffee, mug, and other fine items in my merch store. I also have 2 patrons. Both have a 7-day free trial. Check them out. You get early access to my writing, RPG material, and more. Now, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, share the link, and of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all for listening. And of course, I shall see you all in the next one. So, please, like, share, and subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Of course, any questions, comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.